You asked about my grandfather, who he bought it from. He bought it from a man by the name of LaValle. LaValle built the barn, and the barn cost him so much money that he lost the farm. And that's when my grandfather bought it.
Isn't this only
This house was built in around 1839. It was built by the Cranstons. They came up from Rhode Island. Lucinda Cranston was a sister of Perry Holly, who lived directly across the road. When my grandfather got married in about 1885, he bought this house and he moved up here with his bride, Harriet Cross. The Atwoods came to the Cape from England in 1739. Thomas Atwood came from Eastham on the Cape to Wormwood Hill in 1739. The Atwoods have been on Wormwood Hill for 300 years. The farm stayed, the old Atwood farm stayed in the family until about 1913. And my grandfather's two bachelor brothers stayed there until they could no longer take care of it. You asked a question about Atwoodville. William Atwood was also born down on that farm. He went into the manufacturing of silk in Gurleyville. Then he was an inventor, and he invented a piece of equipment that revolutionized the silk industry. He set up a factory in Atwoodville. They outgrew that. They moved to Willimantic, and then they moved to Stonington, where they became world famous. But he too started in Wormwood Hill. Now about the house. The house is a traditional cape with a center chimney and 3 fireplaces, a front door with one room on one side of the front door, another room on the other side, and then 3 rooms across the back, which were usually bedrooms, although one of them my grandmother used as a pantry. My father and grandfather were cattle dealers, so we always had a lot of animals around here, most of them just temporarily. But we had a few pets of our own. We always had a couple of horses. Our last horse was Major. Oh, he was a beautiful horse. Oh, how we loved that horse. No matter where he was on the farm, if we went out and called Major, we would hear Major clopping along coming up. My father would go out in the morning and let Major out. Major would walk to the house. We would put a pail of water out the door. Major would drink his water. He would turn right around and he would go right back to the barn. Major always liked sweets, so in addition to his water, he always got something sweet, a cookie or a donut or a piece of cake or even watermelon. We always had lots of cats. Some of them were barn cats, some of them were house cats. We had one great big mother cat that we would dress up in doll's clothes and put him in the doll carriage and wheel him around. We have a corn crib. And during the summer, that was our playhouse. We had our doll furniture out there, but we were not interested too much in dolls. We had our pets. We never had a dog, but my grandfather gave each of us a calf, so we had a calf that we played with. And my father had oxen, so And the oxen were so gentle that as little girls we could go up and pet them and enjoy them. My father was born here, and I am a twin, and my sister and I were brought up here. There were no other children living in the neighborhood at this time, so Harold and I were our own playmates. We had to create our own fun. The school is just right in sight. It was a one-room school. We started when we were 4 because a teacher was willing to have us come. There were 18 children in the school, 3 sets of twins, all at the same time. School was kind of fun. The teacher was Marion Cullen. She was very creative. We'd have picnics in the grove. We would go on long nature walks. I don't remember the games as much because what we liked was taking long walks and walking out through the fields and taking trips with my father. You see, they had to go out and buy cows, and we just enjoy getting in the truck with him and going out to all. We would travel on every back road in the area, buying cows. We did not produce milk. We had to milk, of course, because sometimes we'd have quite a few cows. We'd keep them until they were ready to have a calf, and then we would sell them.
Isabelle's father's milking stool.
The cows put their heads through here, the stanchions, and this where the board is. This is a manure pit, but we filled it in so we could walk here. There was a wall through here, and this is You see, they hung the pigs up by his hind legs and dipped him down into the hot water to take the hair off, you see. And you see the cleavers. And this is for squeezing the lard. And these are for making grinding the meat and making sausage.
Make the sausage by pressing it into those
Yeah.
canisters, I see.
Yeah, those are ours. When we cut the wood, we had to bring it up. We brought it up in this sled, put in the tree for the sap. That's what you collected it in, and that's what you boiled it down in. And these are what you carried the sap buckets in.
What's the smaller yoke? Is that also an ox yoke?
Yeah, for little ones, training. See, when the big one is for full-grown ox. That's for little ox. It was a single. No, the oxen did the heavy work, like pulling the wood up. The stuff that we tried is slow motion. Drawing the wood out of the woods, taking the manure out. See, there's a great big door at the end here, which was, they opened up and they could back the wagon, the dump cart right in there. Came from Gloryville. That's the commercial. People who made butter to sell. So as I said, we had one family cow, always just one family cow. The interesting thing about the cattle dealing business is that they would either buy a cow, or sometimes 3 or 4, or sell a cow. Now everything was done at that earlier. There were no trucks, so they'd have to lead the cow halfway to the person who bought a cow, and then that person would take it the rest of the way. They rode on a wagon. The hired man walked with the cow. My grandfather and my father rode on the wagon. We always had a lot of hired men here. My mother always fed them at noon. She had a very busy job. In the summer, we would spend the whole summer canning. And that was a hot job, standing there at the stove, putting the food or the vegetables in jars. It was in a hot kitchen, a wood-burning stove. It was before we had electricity. Remember, we did not get electricity here till, well, in 1940, I think, or maybe 35 or 40. So we had kerosene lamps. We burned wood stoves. We had a wood stove in this room. We had a wood stove in the dining room. We had a wood stove upstairs, and then we had a big kitchen wood-burning stove. It was our chore when we get home from school to go out and get the wood and fill the wood boxes. We always had little chores to do. It was our chore to comb the horse. We'd bring the horse out and we'd comb him and pet him. Oh, he was wonderful. And then my grandfather sometimes hitched the horse up to the sleigh and took us out for a sleigh ride out through the lots with the bells ringing. It was really very exciting. We skated on the pond out back. We slid downhill from here to Mount Hope. From here, then we'd cross 89 and slide down Tower Hill, back and forth all day long. And of course, it was before there were many cars on the road. You couldn't do that, no. And then we'd slide down the Wormwood Hill Road. We loved to ski. My uncle taught us to ski, and we learned to ski on barrel staves. He said when we learned to ski on the barrel staves, he'd buy us skis, so finally he bought us skis. Wormwood Hill, up back here, or up south of here, is one of the highest spots in Mansfield, and it was an absolutely wonderful hill to ski on. Next door, there were a couple of women who, during the summer, had summer guests. They were actually boarders, mostly women who came up from New York. There were 2 women who loved to play bridge, but 2 of them couldn't play alone. So they insisted that Harry and I learn to play bridge. Some afternoon, we'd sit across the road on the porch and play bridge. With them, it was a very serious game. You couldn't make any mistakes. To this day, I don't like bridge. I won't play bridge just for that reason. They really spoiled it for me. There was one other child that lived on Wormwood Hill for a while, across the road. Her stepfather was Stanley Kunitz, the very famous poet laureate of the United States twice. He was married to another writer, Helen Downey. And they stayed in the back of the house writing. So the child was just left on her own. So she spent an awful lot of time over here. And let me tell you, she was a lively one. We used to have a good
And
time.
how old were you and how old was the child?
Well, let's see, this must have been, well, it was still while we were in elementary school. We were about the same age. She became a very well-known illustrator. In fact, she did illustrations for the New York Herald Tribune. Because we spent 9 years up here at this one-room school. So high school was a very exciting experience for us. We loved high school. The first year we were going to go to high school, my father wanted to get the contract to drive, well, there were four other children in the neighborhood going to high school. Not in the immediate neighborhood. However, the man who was chair of the education department had a general store, and a man down the road owed the store a lot of the money. So he got the contract. That way the board member got paid. The second year, though, or that first year was something, because we went to school in a car driven by a senior. It was an old beat-up car. We were forever breaking down on the road, and they called from the high school and wanted to know where we were, and here we were sitting on the side of the road. But the second year, they provided a bus, so from that point on, we went to high school by bus. And as I said, oh, we loved high school. Because you see, there were not many children here. Tweaky, the gal across the road, was only here for a short while. There was a little boy up the road when we were very small. But the rest of the time, there were no other children. There was another person next door.
So you and your sister pretty much found ways to amuse yourself here on the farm.
That's right, and we were our own best friends. We had no other friends.
And you just spend a lot of time in the barns?
So we were creative. We had to be creative. I loved to paint. I loved to work with my hands. She did not. She liked to read. And as I said, we just did things together. We got tennis rackets, and we used to hit the tennis ball back and forth. Next door, I'm going back to my grandfather's time now. There was a man by the name of Bill Fenner. Well, Bill Fenner liked croquet, but he was a farmer. So, of course, he didn't have time to play croquet during the day. So he had a croquet court out on his side lawn, and he had 4 big lanterns, one on each side. My grandfather liked to read. He used to like poetry, so he'd sit down and he'd read poetry to us. And for Christmas, the 2 women next door, my grandfather, another woman next door, always gave Harriet and I books. And my grandfather gave us a magazine subscription to the Youth's Companion.
About the room?
This is the parlor. This is where I entertained special friends. A parlor was always used for company only. Growing up, this was a parlor and the door was closed except when company was coming. I tell you that this house was 1830s. There's no attempt by us to furnish the house in that period. We're trying to reflect generations of living. So it's a mixture of all periods. The table is 18th century. It came from a family of Briggs, who was a very well-known cartoonist. His son lived 2 houses down the road, so that came from them. The desk descended from the family of Thomas Jefferson. Portraits are pictures of Atwood, so I don't know exactly how they're related to us. I haven't figured that out yet. You can see he was a Mason. The interesting thing about the fireplace is that the trim around the fireplace is exactly the same as around the front door, which is very unusual. The Horn of Plenty was my grandmother's pattern. She did not have as much as I have here. My sister and I have added to it. It dates to about 1830. It's a pattern glass. If you will notice, there are other pieces around here. The other pattern here is diamond point. Now this was my great-grandmother Sophona Wright's pattern. Now Sophona Wright was my great-grandmother. She came from a mile up the road, the beautiful Wright farm. The Wrights were original proprietors of Ashford. The room that was now our dining room was our sitting room and dining room. I have a lot of decanters. We bought some, and I think there was one that was my grandmother's, but at this point I'm not sure which is which. You see, we kept adding Horn of Plenty every chance we got. There's a tumbler glass.
What's under the desk?
A Bible box. And in it is the family Bible.
And how long has that been in your family? The box and the Bible?
The family Bible is the family's Bible. I don't know how far back. The box we bought to put the Bible in. I think that's the Bible that came from from Sophia Wright.
The couch? And then?
That is not a family piece. That came from Hebron. There's a great big beautiful house in Hebron that used to be the general store. And this couch was out in the back room. It was the dog's bed. I am concerned by all the development that's going on. We're losing farms all over the town. I want to preserve the farm. That's very important to me. But also, I want the house to stay as it is. I guess I don't like the thought of other people moving into this house and making changes. But basically, as I say, I wish there was some way I could preserve more land. But I really want very much to preserve this farm for future generations to enjoy. I have specified that it should be used as a farm, not recreation. But just driving up the Mount Hope Road and looking over there at the open pastures and the fields and seeing cows out there, I think it will be very interesting. And also, barns are fast disappearing. I want my outbuild preserved. There are very few farms around that still have a barn and a well house and a pig pen and a sheep shed and 2 wagon sheds, a blacksmith shop, a corn crib. A mid-19th century farm. The things that the farmer did during that period of time.
So these are for collecting apples?
Apples and vegetables. Well, I don't know. See, this one was for syrup, and I sort of think that's for some type of, the inside ones were for cooking inside, but as I said, I don't know where to put them, so.
We've carried for so long, and all our burdens will be gone, and I can't wait. We will find our way to an understanding of all views, and no prayer shall be refused.
I have great faith in Josh's trust. I was one of the original founders of the trust, and I like what they're doing. I know that they will follow out the things that I want done. I'm not the least bit worried about that. There is going to be an endowment to go along with the farm because this is an expensive place to maintain.
Sister pretty much found ways to amuse yourself here on the farm.
That's right, and we were our own best friends. We had no other friends. We had a piano here because we were taking piano lessons. It was waste of money as far as I'm concerned. My sister played, but I.
So did you spend much time in here as a girl?
No, playing the piano, yes. My mother would light the fire, get the room heated up, and then we'd have our piano lessons, and then we'd come in here to practice. But as I said, when we were having company, we would light the stove, heat the room up. But during the winter, you see, it was cold in here. No central heat.